UFC is headed to Abu Dhabi for a fight night card with a ton of compelling matchups that I'm really looking forward to breaking down. We're going to do that in this video. We're going to go over every single matchup on this card. We're going to go in depth on the matchups, give a pick and prediction for every single fight. Real quick, though, I want to highlight the things you can find down in the description of this video because they're really cool. You got the Patreon. You can find my bets. You can find my full card notes. You can find my picks with confidence ratings, all of that. You can find the merch to this very channel. You can get yourself a t-shirt, something like that. It looks really nice on you, I'm sure. This hot weather that we're having here in North America, we got this really hot sun beating down on us. Maybe you want to get yourself a cutoff. You let me know. We can get all that stuff down there. Go ahead. Also, you can get access to the World of Mixed Martial Arts 5 game. That's a really fun game. If you like MMA, you're going to love the game. So check all that stuff out. While you're down there, like the video. I do appreciate it. I'll see you guys. Middleweights next. Sedriques Dumas takes on Denis Tiuliulin. And this is an interesting one for the fact that I'm not super high on either of these guys. You know, both of them have had their ups and downs. More downs for Tiuliulin than ups, but you know what I mean. For Tiuliulin, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. So you got to assume that this is make or break. If he does not win this fight, I don't imagine he's going to be with the UFC any longer. For Dumas, had some struggles inside and outside of the cage. You know, a couple of wins, couple of losses, but also had some personal stuff going on. I don't know how that's going to affect him here. You know, I mean, you'd assume not, but at the same time, people handle stuff differently. Dumas is 3-2 in his last 5, so a little bit better than Tiuliulin. For Tiuliulin, the guy's a solid striker with good forward pressure and power. He's got pretty good volume, and he's durable. But the problem is he can't grapple, and he's really weak off his back. So if you take him down, he's toast. But if you just stand and trade with him, the dude's tough as nails, and he's going to throw bombs and probably knock you out. So there is that. On the other side, we have Dumas, who is a pretty good striker. He's got long, rangy straights. He's got plenty of power, good head kick, but he's wide open to counters. He does not cover himself back up after he extends on his strikes. Decent grappling. He's pretty good at slamming guys down, but his takedown defense is kind of like, I don't think he has to worry about this here. He does have a quick guillotine as well. Honestly, if Dumas just goes for a takedown and gets the takedown, he probably is fine from then on out because Tiuliulin has just shown that he doesn't have anything once he's on his back. And I can't pick him because of that. So I've got to go with Dumas. I think he's probably going to be able to get the fight to the mat. He could also just get chin checked early, but I don't see it happening. I think he's going to be good enough to get it done. Give me Sedriques Dumas to get this one. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. A veteran versus the prospect next in a lightweight matchup. Jai Herbert, the grizzled veteran at the age of 36 years old, takes on Rolando Bedoya, who is the up-and-comer at 27. For Bedoya, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 2-2 in a draw for Herbert. Levels of competition are a bit different between the two, but it's very much the guy who's been here for a while versus the guy who's just kind of making his way, making his path. For Bedoya, dude's a good striker. He's got very good forward pressure, kicks to all levels, but that leg kick in particular is a nasty weapon of his. Good combinations, puts forth volume, and he can counter strike while moving forward or backwards, which is nice. He likes to brawl a bit too much, which is, but he's also pretty durable, so it does work out for him. He's got good takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet, and I think that's what he wants to do here for the most part because he's fighting Jai Herbert, who's a solid striker in his own right. He's got plenty of power, very good kicks. The body kick is his weapon that is better, the best weapon in his kicking arsenal. He's got good flurries, and he likes that block and return style. So takes one on the guard and then strikes back with a strike of his own. That's the style that you see out of Jai Herbert in the striking range. In the tie clinch, guy's got very good knees, and the fact that he's a pretty tall, lanky fella helps him get that knee up there to the chin of his opponent. So for Jai Herbert, the tie clinch is a good weapon for him. In the grappling, he's good there as well. He's got good jiu-jitsu, and his body triangle is absolutely devastating. But his takedown defense is a little bit, I don't think he's got to worry about getting taken down here. I think if the fight goes to the mat, it's by Jai Herbert's choosing. This is a good fight. The thing that makes it tough is because, say 2 years ago, a year ago, probably about 2 years ago, Jai Herbert would be the pick for sure because he hadn't shown any signs of declining yet. The guy still young enough that you're like, he's still got a few more in him. But he's getting up there to the point where he's going to be declining each fight, most likely. And we have seen just a little bit of the signs of him starting to slip just a little bit. I do still think he has enough in the tank to get this one done and give the vet lesson to the young up-and-comer. So I'm going to take Jai Herbert. But it's another one of those fights where, like, at 36 at lightweight, you got to start to wonder, like, how much of a drop-off are we going to see between each fight. So I'm going to take him for now. It's going to be this is going to be a watch-and-see kind of fight to see where Bedoya is at. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe you're on the other side. I wouldn't blame you. I believe Bedoya is the underdog, so there is that as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Victoria Dudakova takes on Sam Hughes in the 115-pound strawweight division. Dudakova is still undefeated, 8-0 in the career, 5-0 in the last 5. Sam Hughes 3-2 in her last 5. Sam Hughes, she's a fighter who basically her best strength is just pace, cardio, and doggedness. This girl gets after it, and that is what carries her in fights. She's not exceptionally good at any one thing or any skill set particularly, but she's decent enough in most places, and she's just really good at putting a pace on, being durable, and just out-hustling her opponents. In the wrestling department, she has decent takedowns and pretty good control, actually, but she does struggle from her back. In the striking, she's basically just volume, and that's what she's got going for her. On the other side, Dudakova, she's going to be this more skilled fighter here. She's a good wrestler. She's got a good body lock takedown, pretty good control, and if she gets your back, you're in some serious trouble because she has very good control from the back. She attacks submissions, but the one thing I don't like about her grappling is at times she's willing to just get this fight to the mat by any means necessary, even if that means giving up position. So like pulling someone down on top of her, even if it means pulling them right into mount. She's done that before if she just needs to get the fight to the mat. I don't like that, but the rest of her wrestling I think is going to be better than Sam Hughes outside of the pace. In the striking, decent striker. She's got good forward pressure, nice long straights, and she's also very durable, and she's shown that in a few of her fights so far, fighting through injuries and still getting the win. For me, it's tough to know if Dudakova is going to be able to keep up with the pacing of Sam Hughes, but outside of that, I think Dudakova is the better fighter, so I am going to go with her in this matchup. I do think she can do it. That was a horrible check mark, but we're going to deal with it. I do think she can get it done, but come the third round, if Hughes is still just going as hard as she always does and Dudakova is starting to fade, there is a chance for a Sam Hughes round 3 type of thing, but I'm going to take Dudakova. Let me know what you think, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. We've got a really exciting matchup here with some wild circumstances. Guram Kutateladze stays on the card after his original opponent falls off. Jordan Vucenic steps in with, short notice, only about 2 weeks after his most recent fight over in Cage Warriors. So very little time between fights there. Obviously, he didn't take much damage in that matchup, but at the same time, that's still just quick between fights, right? So Vucenic steps in. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. The guy's looked very good as of late. Has looked very good in his career, to be honest. He's fighting Guram Kutateladze, who is a pretty big step up in competition as opposed to the last few guys that Vucenic's fought, but he did fight Paul Hughes, who we saw over on PFL, get his debut and get a big win. I guess is that for Bellator or PFL? They're the same thing. Whatever. They're both owned by PFL. It was one of those cards. So Paul Hughes did a good job getting that win there. The only loss in the last 5 fights for Vucenic, and they're 1-1 with each other. So there is that. For Vucenic, the guy, like I said, 2 weeks-ish after his last fight in Cage Warriors to this fight where he's fighting Kutateladze. So that takes some serious stones there. For Kutateladze, a couple of losses coming into this one, but 3-2. Looked pretty good until he didn't against Brener. So there is that. But it does happen sometimes, just some guy just outdogs you, and that's what happened in that fight. For Vucenic here, we're going to start on this side with him. He is a good striker. He's got good leg kicks. Those are probably they're usually what he starts the fight with, right? He comes out, slams some leg kicks early on, kind of uses it to gauge his opponent. He puts together pretty good combinations, and he does keep his guard like a high boxing guard. He's a better grappler than striker, by my opinion. He does have pretty good takedowns. He does a good job at getting that second attempt with the leg reap, but he's even better at getting takedowns up against the cage. So if he can force this fight up against the cage, I think that's where he's going to be able to get those takedowns. He does do a pretty good job of getting low and getting deep on the hips, so that is good. He does work to advance his position once he gets the fight to the mat, and he does have a pretty good submission arsenal. He tends to go for chokes, but we've seen him go for some arm locks in the past as well. On the other side, Kutateladze, he's going to be the more, probably a little bit more technical striker in this matchup. He does have a very dynamic attack, and he counter strikes very well. He has good combinations where he puts his punches and kicks together, and he can do that at range or in the clinch where he's slamming elbows that are absolutely devastating. In the grappling and wrestling department, he does have the ability to mix in his own takedowns to keep his opponents guessing, but his takedown defense is what he's going to need to use here, and typically it's pretty good, and he usually can pop back up to his feet. However, Kutateladze is on a 2-fight losing streak, and that does change things a little bit. Vucenic fought 2 weeks ago. That is a big difference. I'm going to go out on a limb and take Jordan Vucenic, and I think it might be this guy just seems like he's got it, and I'm going to see if he can get it done. I think this is the right time to fight Kutateladze, coming off of a couple of losses, Maybe his confidence is a little rattled. Vucenic's confidence should be through the roof right now. Guys coming in looking like a savior of the card. You know, maybe not the savior of the card, but he saved this fight. He's got a big name. He's a big time signing. I think the moment's going to help him out. I think he's a guy that thrives under that kind of stuff. So we're going to side with him. I'm probably not going to bet on it. I think there's too many variables. I think you should stay away as well. I don't think this is a fight that you're going to want to put your hard-earned money on with all of the variants that we're going to experience here. But let me know what you think. Do you have a strong lean on either side? Do you think I'm crazy for picking Vucenic? If so, I don't blame you a bit. Kutateladze is a proven commodity in the UFC. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one. We've got a matchup in the heavyweight division between Shamil, Gaziev, and Dontel Mays. Mays is 2-2 in a no contest in his last 5 fights, 4-1 for Gaziev. He's coming off that loss to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, where he had a big step up in competition, was kind of rushed into a main event, and it didn't go his way. So, Gaziev taking a little step back, fighting Dontel Mays. We're going to see where he falls in this division. When we look at Dontel Mays, he doesn't do anything super well, but he's a very big, athletic guy, right? He's got decent boxing, pretty good power, good movement on the feet. His striking defense is non-existent, but he does have good power and movement. The movement can act as a defense if you're not, basically just get out of the way of things, rather, not head movement, I'm talking like full body movement, rather than block or rather than slip in punches. He just gets out of the way, which is fine. That's a viable defense, I suppose. But when I'm saying he's bad striking defenses, he's not blocking anything, he's not slipping punches, nothing like that. So, judo background, he uses it some, mostly just in the cage push, but he doesn't use it very often. It's mostly the boxing that he tends to go to. On the other side, we got Shamil Gaziev. The guy's a good wrestler, right? He changes takedown attempts, very good top pressure, heavy ground and pound. But this is early in fights because as fights go on, it's gone. It's non-existent. And the reason why is because when he wrestles, his cardio fades very quickly. And you guys didn't believe me when I said that he was going to fade in that Rozenstruik fight. Well, what happened? He faded. It's because he can't do the wrestling for very long because it just gasses this guy out. I mean, in the striking, he's just, he's not anywhere near Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So that's what happened there. But he is a decent striker with good forward pressure, good power, but his hands are low. His hands are low because he's looking to grab those legs, and also he's a big guy that gets tired easy. Honestly, this is a tough one to call for the fact that we don't know where the mental state's going to be at. For Gaziev, he suffered his first loss. That's a big thing for some guys. It really messes them up. Once they lose that first fight, they go on a spiral. I mean, just look at Dominic Reyes, right? I mean, that guy lost once to John Jones, and next thing you know, he just kept losing it. You got to win eventually, but it took a while. He had to beat those mental demons that came along with that loss to John Jones. Maybe Gaziev struggles with that. Maybe he doesn't. So that is something we got to take into account. Ultimately, I think that this step back in competition is going to help him, and I think Gaziev is going to pick up a win. I think he's going to do so. Probably got. I'm going to say first round TKO, actually. We're going with that. So let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. Division next, where Mohammad Yahya takes on Kaue Fernandes. Fernandes 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 4-1 for Yahya. Interesting matchup here. Strange matchmaking, but we'll take it. Fernandes, he's a good striker with good movement. He kind of darts in and out when he's looking to strike. He has very fast kicks with 0 tell on them, and he can kick to all levels. His leg kicks in particular are absolutely nasty. In the grappling department, that's where he's even better. He works to advance position very well. He's got good scrambles and very good top pressure. The one thing that I am not sold on is when he is on his back, he's constantly looking for arm bars, which is good if you get the arm bar, but it's bad because what you're doing is you're committing to staying on your back and looking for arm bars. And if you don't get one, you're either A, putting yourself in a bad position by selling out for the arm bar, or B, just stuck on your back, and not in a great position, but, also not getting yourself into a worse position. But either way, it's not that it's one of those things. On the other side, we have Mohammad Yahya, who's basically a decent counter striker. He's got decent power and he counters pretty well. But the problem is he's very low volume because he's looking to counter strike. And oftentimes his counter striking ability, he even gets caught trying to counter, and he'll get hit and then try to counter back from there, which is just not a good way to win on the scorecards typically, unless you're fighting lower level competition. His takedown defense is a bit lackluster as well. So ultimately, I can't really go with him there. I don't know where I put my marker to make this pick. We're going to use this pink one right here. We found one. I'm taking Kaue Fernandes to get this win. I think he's the better fighter everywhere. I don't think this one's going to be too tough for him. So Kaue Fernandes is the pick. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you light heavyweight. We have Alonzo Menifield. He's taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Now for Murzakanov, he's 13-0 in the career, 5-0 in the last 5. He doesn't fight super often. But he's taking on Alonzo Menifield, who was fighting super often I guess he still is. It wasn't even that long ago he took his last fight, but he was fighting relatively often leading up to his last fight where he was knocked out in, I don't know, 10 seconds or something like that. But he is 3-1-1 in his last 5 fights. He's looked pretty good as of late outside of that last matchup with Carl Solberg where he was just knocked out in a handful of seconds. Outside of that blemish, though, he's looked like he's developing. He's improving a lot of his skills. But now he's going up against the undefeated Azamat Murzakanov. That's not up. But anyway, for Murzakanov, like I said, the guy doesn't fight super often. And he's predominantly a striker, but he's a very well-rounded fighter, right? Guy's good striking. He's got good power, fast hands, very dynamic attack. He mixes in things like, like the kicking game, the flying knees, the spinning attacks. He will mix those type of things in. He is more of a striker, but he can wrestle. He's got good wrestling as well. He's got good takedowns. He mixes those in with his strikes, and if he does get the fight to the mat, his ground and pound is pretty gosh darn good as well. So for Murzakanov, the dude's a pretty well-rounded fighter, and I think he has the better, overall technical skill set. But when we look at Alonzo Menifield, this dude is a freak athlete. This guy is extremely athletic, a decent striker who's very fast and powerful. He can shut your lights out with one shot, but he's a bit wild, and he should probably be getting the beat to the punch here just because the more technical shots are coming from Murzakanov. But you got to understand that if Menifield hits him, he's probably going to drop him. Maybe not put him out in one shot, but the dude hits hard. He's a tank of a human, right? For Menifield, though, also his wrestling. He's got pretty good wrestling. He's got good, powerful slams, good top pressure. His takedown defense is held up mostly in his fights, and if he does get taken down, he gets back to his feet pretty well. He's got very nasty ground and pound to go along with it. So honestly, with Menifield being a decent underdog, I wanted to take the shot on him, and then I remembered, gosh, it wasn't that long ago. He was just knocked out by Ulberg, and I think he might be coming back a little early. So I don't know. It's a close fight, and skill set wise, I lean Murzakanov, but Menifield is always a live underdog. Let's put it that way. He's always a live underdog just with his power, speed, athleticism. So I'm going to take Murzakanov, but guys, I'm going to tell you, you probably want to stay away from this one because we just don't know what Menifield's going to show up. And it only takes one from somebody like Menifield. Or maybe he goes out there, just picks up Murzakanov and slams him on the ground, and that's it. Like, he slams him and toast. Drops him on his head, drops him down, tries to brace with his arm. His arm snapped. I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm going to take Murzakanov. I think he's probably the cleaner fighter. But this one's giving me some red flags. So we're staying away. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you think I'm overreacting, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments. We've got a fight in the lightweight division that just has banger written all over it. We have Elves Brener taking on Joel Alvarez. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights, and both of these guys are all action fighters, which is what you love to see on a card like this. For Elves Brener, though, he is at a bit of a height and reach disadvantage because the guy's only 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, which isn't bad for lightweight. But he's going against Joel Alvarez, who's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. So this guy's a mountain of a human being for the lightweight division. When we look at skill for skill, Elves Brener, solid jiu-jitsu practitioner. This guy has very good sweeps. He uses his elbows extremely well in ground and pound. He's a bit of an armbar specialist, and he also will use his submission attempts to sweep his opponents. So when he's on the bottom and he's going for the submission, it's not always submission or bust. It can often be start with the submission, get to a point where you can sweep and get on top, and I do like that from him. He has some pretty good takedowns from the clinch with some trips and things like that, but his open mat takedowns are not that good. So he does need to get into the clinching range in order to get these takedowns at a high rate, and that's going to be tough with that disadvantage in the height and reach, okay? Striking. He's probably going to be the cleaner, better striker here by a little bit. He's got good forward pressure. He's got good volume. His knees up the middle are extremely dangerous, and he's also exceptionally durable. So we've seen Brener eat crazy shots and come back and just not care about the damage he's taking. Eventually, that's not going to work out for him, but it has worked out for him quite a bit thus far. He's got very good cardio as well, so he's still going to be there late in the fight. On the other side, Joel Alvarez, strong grappling toolbox. This guy has a large toolbox to work with, very large submission arsenal, but he prefers the chokes. He likes to go for chokes. Some guys are limb submissions experts. Some guys are choke experts. He goes for the choke. So uses his ground and pound to set up these chokes as well. A lot of times what happens is if you get on top and you're trying to land a choke, but somebody's not giving it to you, you start landing a few shots, they're going to all of a sudden give up that neck. So that is what Alvarez does pretty well. In the striking, he has decent striking. He has a really good jab. I do like the jab from Alvarez, but a lot of it's just aggression and pretty decent power. He doesn't have the best defense, but a lot of times what he's trying to do is just get in close enough to either you take him down or he get the takedown because his grappling is that good that he can make up for any lacking on the feet. But like I said, that jab is pretty good, especially with a guy that has a 77-inch reach. ultimately for me, this is a tough one because I do understand that both guys have clear paths to victory here. I'm going to slightly lean on the side of Joel Alvarez because of the size advantage. I think in the grappling, I think he's just going to be a tiny bit ahead. In the striking, I think Brener's going to be better, but I think the length is going to help Alvarez. So I'm going to go with Alvarez, but this one might end up just being a pass for me. If this fight is really close, it could go either way. I'm going to kick my feet up on the coffee table. I'm going to crack open a nice cold root beer, and I'm going to enjoy this fight, and I hope you guys do the same. Let me know what you think, though. Let me know who your picks are in the comments below, and I'll see you guys. Tricky one in the women's strawweight division for a number of reasons. This fight is a tricky fight. Lupita Godinez takes on Mackenzie Dern. For Godinez, she's 4-1 in her last 5, 2-3 for Mackenzie Dern. Now, for Lupita Godinez, the biggest issue she's always had is that fight IQ. It's there in some fights, and then in others it is not. I have not been able to discern why it is totally gone in some fights and totally present in others. Doesn't make any sense to me, but it's something to make note of, and it makes it hard to predict her fights. On the other hand, she is a good striker. She's got good forward pressure, good volume, throws a lot of 1-2s while she's coming forward, and she can put together combinations when she really starts to feel the striking get its rhythm, stuff like that. She got good wrestling as well. She's good in the cage push. She can work her takedowns from there, and when she gets the fight to the mat, she's got decent control. But here's the deal: she doesn't often know which of these skill sets to use, and she starts grabbing the wrong things out of the tool bag because her fight IQ is just a bit off sometimes. So I could see her making mistakes here, and that could be a problem for her because she's going against Mackenzie Dern, who is never really out of a fight. The girl's got amazing cardio. She's definitely got the dog in her, right? She's fought the higher level of competition. She's always in the fight, but she has some glaring weaknesses. We'll start with the weakness of the striking. She's shown moments where it's been like, oh, wow, Mackenzie Dern's really leveled up her striking. And then it's gone. Her striking defense is abysmal. She's incredibly durable, though. The girl can take a punch, that is for sure. But her offensive striking, at times, you're like, oh, okay, look at the improvement. And then it just falls apart. So the striking is the red flag. But the jiu-jitsu, it's fantastic. So if Godinez starts going for takedowns and stuff, Dern's going to welcome that because she's better on the mat. Even off of her back, she could be in a better situation than Godinez on top on the mat. So for Dern, she's got high-level jiu-jitsu, like I said, a very large toolbox. She is a submission threat from pretty much any position, right? She can hit. She can get a submission from pretty much anywhere you're going to find yourself in an MMA fight. Let's put it that way. She's got good control, but she does lack open mat takedowns. Now, she's gotten a couple against like Lemos, for example, but it's just they're not consistent. You can't rely on her takedowns to get the fight to the mat. So this is a hard fight to call. On one hand, I want to take Dern because the better level competition, she's going to have fantastic cardio. She's durable as heck. You know she's going to be there in the third round, and she's always going to be trying to win the fight regardless of how she's looking on the scorecards. On the other hand, I think if Godinez comes in with a decent game plan, she can keep this fight on the feet, and she will look like $1 million. Don't bet this fight. I guess, you know what? Do what you want. Obviously, don't ever listen to me just because I said something. Do whatever you want. But I'm not going to bet this fight. I'm going to kick my feet up on the coffee table. I'm going to crack open a nice cold root beer, and I'm just going to watch this fight and try to figure out where I see these two in the division from here forward. But I'm going to take Lupita Godinez because I do have to make a pick. And I'm going to take her for the simple fact that if she does decide to use some fight IQ and come in with a decent game plan, she can probably keep this fight on the feet, and I think that will serve her well. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the welterweight match next. And I don't know how I feel about it. We got Tony Ferguson taking on Michael Chiesa. Chiesa's 2-3 in his last 5, which is not exactly the best, but much better than the 0-5 in the last 5 for Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's on a huge decline lately and just can't win a fight. So as you know, if you've been around the channel for a while, usually when I break down Tony Ferguson fights, there's a whole slew of notes up here. I took a bunch of them off. I downgraded everything, but it's just because he's on such a decline. Now, maybe he wins some of that back as far as my notebook is suggesting. I am still going to put up the full notes that I typically have for Tony Ferguson on the Patreon, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. But for the sake of this video, we're slimming it down to what I think he still is going to be able to do in this matchup, and maybe we'll be right. So for Michael Chiesa, though, he's still a solid grappler. He's got very good transitions, excellent control. He's a back taker. The body lock takedown is usually how he gets the fight to the mat, and he has a good mixture of ground and pound and submission attempts to get the fight to the finish that he looks for. You know, whether that be because he's getting that finish from pounding an opponent out, getting to decision, or getting the submission, which is usually his priority number 1. For Chiesa, I do think he's going to be the better grappler here at this stage in both of their careers. In the striking, though, Chiesa's just never been the best striker anyway, and he's also on a bit of a decline. His inactivity probably lends to that quite a bit. He's taken more of like an analyst and a coaching role. So for Chiesa, decent striking, but it's basically just set up by the grappling threat, and he uses it to set up his body lock takedowns. That's essentially what it is. So I do think Ferguson's still going to be the better striker of the two. As weird as that is to say. But Ferguson's got good volume, and he does have still have those slicing elbows. Those things are just built into him, so he can't really get rid of those. And he still uses them occasionally. When he does, those type of things are going to mark somebody up. Those type of things are going to score you on the judges' scorecard. So for Tony Ferguson, I do think he has a path in the striking. In the grappling, he's pretty good there as well. He's got good sweeps still. Elbows from the top or the bottom, like I was saying, those are still an option for him. And he does have a diverse submission arsenal that he can still go to. But the problem is, Ferguson's just a step behind. And unfortunately, I can't pick Tony Ferguson on like a 7-fight losing streak. So I have to go with Michael Chiesa here. I think he has just a little bit more left in the tank. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of hoping this fight would drop off, but it didn't. So here we go. Michael Chiesa is the pick. Let me know what you have. I'd love to hear your opinion on this one in the comments. Even if it's completely silly, I'd love to hear it. But let me know, and I'll see you guys. Matchup here in the bantamweight division as Deiveson Figueiredo looks to really establish himself in the division. If you remember, he was a flyweight, former champion down there. He's now at bantamweight. This is his third fight at bantamweight. He beat Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font. Looked great doing it, but now he's fighting Marlon Vera, former title challenger up here at 135 pounds. Both of these guys are 3-2 in their last 5 fights. And we're going to dive into this really quick, but I wanted to just ask you guys, if you could do me this favor, scroll on down, hit the like button. It does a lot for me. The little thumbs up there, you know, it's pretty easy to find. If you could do that, it would help the channel a lot, and I would really appreciate it. So please do that. Let's break down this fight. Deiveson Figueiredo, like I said, former flyweight. So he's going to be like the shorter guy here, right? But the reach is not too far off, honestly. So for Figueiredo, good striker. He's got really good forward pressure, power, accuracy. He works the body really well, and he's got nasty kicks. But the biggest drawback is he's kind of patient, and he keeps his hands low. So his hands are down here, looking to land those big power shots, and he kind of just looks for his shots. Now, he can throw combos, don't get me wrong, and he will at times, but he can be a little bit too patient at times, and that's going to be interesting because we're going to see something similar on the other side, but we're going to get to that in a minute. He's very solid in the jiu-jitsu realm. Decent takedowns, but the takedowns actually really seem to sap his cardio. We haven't really seen that problem yet at bantamweight, so maybe that's changed. But we don't have a big enough sample size to really get a good idea of that, in my opinion. But he definitely is going to have a jiu-jitsu advantage here, although Marlon Vera is very good there as well. For Figueiredo, nasty chokes, super tight squeeze, very good in the scrambles, good top pressure. He can sweep if he gets stuck on the bottom, and he transitions between positions very, very well. In the grappling, I've got to give the edge to Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, on the other side, for Marlon Vera, solid striker. He's very good at counter-striking, and he's got an excellent kick arsenal. He can put you out with one shot. His power is very, very fight-changing. Whether he completely just flatlines you, or if it's just kind of like the Rob Font fight where he got outlanded by a significant clip, but he was able to cause so much more damage with the shots he was landing than Rob Font was landing on him. So for Vera, the way that he maybe is a little lower volume, the power he delivers can totally change a fight. Like I said, he reads his opponents extremely well, and he's got very good striking defense because of it. Not only that, but even when he is getting hit, he's extremely durable. This guy doesn't show a mark on him typically. He can eat a shot like it's nobody's business. Like this guy is incredibly durable. So those power shots coming from Figueiredo, it would be best for Figueiredo to not bank on the power shot getting out or getting Vera out of there, because I don't think that's going to be his path to victory here. Now, looking at the clinch, this is something that Vera can use to his advantage if he's getting a lot of pressure from Figueiredo trying to close that distance, because Vera's obviously going to be the taller guy. And at kicking range, obviously he's going to be able to reach the target much earlier. But if it comes in tight, Vera's got a nasty tie clinch, and he has some of the dirtiest, meanest elbows in that tie clinch. So I do really like that for him. The problem is he's a slow starter, notoriously slow starter, actually, like really slow. Figueiredo's kind of a slow starter too, even slower on the Vera side. But he also can be held down, and we've seen that recently as like an option for his opponents where they get on top, and he just doesn't. He'll try a little off his back, but he just doesn't seem to do a ton to try to get back up, or if those first couple attempts fail, he just kind of is content to stay there. That's not a good thing for Vera in this matchup, because Figueiredo, like I said, right here, top pressure, right here, can be held down. That's a problem. ultimately, that's why I think Figueiredo is going to win this matchup. I think he's going to resort to the grappling, maybe not right away, but I think he'll do it enough to get 2 rounds because this is a 3-round fight. I think the first round's probably going to be kind of competitive with these two guys both just going to be in at range, not doing a whole lot. But I think Figueiredo in the second round is going to say, okay, I need to get this fight to the mat. He's going to come in looking for a big power shot and use that actually to set up a takedown, get the takedown, and get on top for the majority of the round. And I think he's going to do something very similar in round 3 after maybe having a moment or two where Vera's landing a big shot, maybe 2 big shots. But once Figueiredo gets it down, he's able to do what he needs to do from there, get some work done, do a little bit of damage, or like maybe not visible damage, but enough output to get the win on the scorecard. So I'm going to go Deiveson Figueiredo by decision. I think he's going to have to resort to the grappling. And don't get me wrong, Vera's not a bad grappler. We've just seen it lately where he's been held down, and I think that Figueiredo can do that to him as well. So let me know what you guys think. I understand the dog shot on Vera. It's kind of an appealing option, but he just hasn't shown me that he's willing to get up off the mat. And what we saw in Figueiredo's last fight against Cody Garbrandt is that he's able to get the fight to the mat against somebody that is a good grappler in Garbrandt, and he's able to do what he needs to do there. So we're taking Figueiredo. Let me know what you have. An odd matchup here where Nurmagomedov takes on Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Now, the reason I say this is odd is because Oleksiejczuk just recently fought Kevin Holland, and his arm was either broken or dislocated. I believe they said it was dislocated. Nothing was actually broken, but that sucker definitely bent way past where it was supposed to go, and that wasn't very long ago. So you got to wonder, is he getting – obviously he doesn't have a full training camp for this because he's taking the fight on short notice anyway, but also how much training was this guy doing beforehand? Because that wasn't very long ago, and a dislocation or a break, probably a dislocation like they said, it takes you out for a while, right? You're not back at training, and if you are back at training, you're not training the same way as effectively without the dislocation. So you've got to wonder if that's going to play a role here. But for Oleksiejczuk, he hasn't looked very good lately. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's fighting the undefeated prospect, Nurmagomedov, 13-0, 5-0 in the last 5, obviously. It's a tough matchup for Oleksiejczuk, but he does have really good striking, right? The guy's a solid striker who comes forward with plenty of power. He's willing to work the body, and he has decent movement on the feet. He's more or less a boxer style, so if he can crash the pocket and close that distance rather than be at kicking range, he does have a path to victory here, and he also has decent offensive wrestling. Now, defensively, it's terrible. He gets taken down, no problem. But offensively, he does have the ability to mix in takedowns. He just doesn't do so. It's very reluctant. He'll do it only if he has to. And I think in this matchup, I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to go out there and strike. It's kind of a tough spot for him. He needs to get this into like in close boxing, like dirty boxing range, and I think that's his best path here. But he's going to have to cross a lot of distance to get inside because Nurmagomedov, he's also a solid striker. He's more of a kicker, though. He's got a wide variety of kicks. He kicks to all levels, and his kicks are actually really devastating when he lands them, especially to the legs. The leg kicks were pretty good in his last fight. He showed the ability to land those with decent power, use that to slow down his opponent, and then do what he needed to do from there. He's got good combinations as well. He was able to put his punches and kicks together. Now, he is more of a kicker, so his punches leave a little to be desired, but he's able to mix them together when he gets to working, and starts putting it all, putting the volume out there and what have you. So he does a pretty good job there, but I don't like that he spins so much. He does spin a little more than you would want to see. It does give him the opportunity to get taken down because when you spin, you give up your back to someone and all that good stuff. But the thing is, it seems to work for him pretty well. Obviously, he's undefeated, and I think in this matchup, I don't think Oleksiejczuk is going to be looking for those takedowns. Now, if he does look for the takedowns, Shara's got bad takedown defense, and he lacks the ability to get back up. He struggled to get off his feet against Bruno Silva, or to get back to his feet against Bruno Silva, sorry. And Bruno Silva's not really a wrestler. Now, Bruno Silva can grapple some. Obviously, we saw that there, but he's not a wrestler, and he's not known for his heavy top pressure. So the fact that Shara was just willing to stay down there and just try to elbow off his back, it's not a good look, right? So that's something that you take into account. Now, I was tempted to take an underdog shot on Oleksiejczuk here when I saw this fight, but then I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, he hasn't looked good lately, Oleksiejczuk. He's coming off that nasty arm injury, probably a dislocation, but I'm not a doctor. And he said it was Guru Scouting MMA that actually I saw this from, but I think he saw it from somebody else. But so it's kind of like an REO Speedwagon song, if that's not too old of a reference for you. But I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who. But for Oleksiejczuk, he put something on his Instagram about how he's probably going to lose this fight. Somebody else mentioned that it could have been something lost in translation, and maybe it was. that's just another red flag to add to the list we've already got. So I've got to go with Nurmagomedov to get this one done. Reluctantly so, because I do think that Oleksiejczuk has the tools to win it, but I don't think he's going to. I think it's going to be Nurmagomedov getting this one done. But let me know what you guys think. Is there a little bit more value on the Oleksiejczuk side? Are you going to be on that side, or am I right to say that Nurmagomedov is kind of getting this matchup at the right time? But let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next fight. Folks, it is now time for the main event of the evening. Last reminder, go ahead and like this video. I do appreciate when you do that. It helps me out a lot. Let's break this down. We've got Kaue Sandhagen taking on Nurmagomedov in the bantamweight division. Now, this is a very, very interesting stylistic matchup. Both of these guys have a wide variety of skills, but I think their styles can make this a very fun fight just for a number of different reasons. We'll cover them in a minute. But from Nurmagomedov, dude's 17-0. 5-0 in the last 5. Guy's undefeated. Looked great in pretty much every fight. He's fighting Kaue Sandhagen, who has only lost to the top guys in the division, right? He's 3-2 in the last 5, but this guy's been beating most competition. 17 wins on the career, 4 losses, but those 4 losses, top-level competition. A couple of those losses are really slim margins as well, where a lot of people might have thought he won. So when we look at this matchup here, let's start with Umar. Umar is an extremely strong grappler. He has a wide variety of takedowns. His single leg is probably one of the best in the entire UFC. He's got a great double leg that he shoots underneath strikes. He can get takedowns against the cage as well, but also he chains his takedowns together, which is fantastic. He's got incredible control when he gets fights to the mat, and from there, it's really hard for people to do anything because what he's going to start doing is tying up your arms and landing ground and pound. This often leads to a rear naked choke because what happens is, if he traps your arm and he'll pull it behind your body a lot of the time or up against your head and go that way and pull it like where you're here. But it's usually pulling through, right? And when he's doing that, you're getting hit. And the only thing you can do is turn over to your belly at that point, and that's where the rear naked choke comes in. So for Nurmagomedov, the dude has the skills on the mat to be competitive with just pretty much anybody in the division for sure. He's a solid striker as well. Now, obviously, he's a better grappler than striker, but he's a good striker. He's got power. He can fight from either stance. He counter strikes really well. And his kicks are probably his best weapon, where he can kick pretty much to all levels with really good accuracy, really good ability to find his range. And a lot of times he can use these kicks without worry of being taken down because he knows his grappling is very solid on the mat as well. When we look at Kaue Sandhagen, he's someone who can pose a lot of problems for Umar because his striking is incredibly hard to predict. He's super unorthodox on the feet. He's very skilled. He's got damaging knees and elbows, including flying knees. And when he starts landing these, he can cut you open. If you're cut open, you could lose a fight at any minute because a lot of blood loss, maybe that cut's in the wrong spot. Next thing you know, the doctor's stepping in saying, dude, we got to call this one. So all of a sudden, you went from maybe even winning the fight to losing the fight via a cut. So with those knees and elbows from Sandhagen, it's something he uses incredibly well. He also has very good combinations. And one that I really like in particular for this matchup is his lead hook to the body followed by that leg kick. He mixes that in really well in most of his fights. In fact, a lot of times when he throws that lead hook to the body, you can assume that leg kick is coming. Now, I don't like that for the fact that I bet you Umar knows this, and he's going to say, okay, that lead hook to the body's coming. Now that leg kick's going to be coming behind it, and I'm going to catch that kick and get the takedown. Now, he may know that. He probably knows that. However, if Sandhagen can have some success with that, that is a great combination for 2 reasons. One, those body shots are going to sap the cardio. It's a 5-round main event. Those leg kicks are going to slow down the movement of Nurmagomedov. And then if the movement is slowed, it's going to be harder to get the takedowns. He's going to lose some cardio by getting those body shots. And a guy like Sandhagen, if he can just maneuver or stay away from you on the feet, he's going to pick you apart all night long. He can get backed up, though, and that can be an issue because if he gets backed up to the cage, he is getting taken down. Now, his hands are low, and typically that's a negative, but in this, it could be a positive because he's going to have to watch out for the grappling threat of Nurmagomedov. Now, I understand Nurmagomedov is a great grappler, great striker. He's very good everywhere. But if Sandhagen can keep this on the feet, I think his approach in the striking is going to be too much for Umar. But if he gets taken down, although a solid grappler in his own right, Kaue Sandhagen can be controlled at times once he's flattened out. And we've seen it before for Umar. If something isn't going his way, he can rely on that wrestling, and those takedowns are absolutely fantastic. I understand a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you're just glazing him because his name's Nurmagomedov. That's not the case. Go back and watch it. This guy, when he was cracked against that Almacan fellow, that was about his only moment of offense. I think he landed a handful of strikes, but that one shot where he like kind of wobbled Umar a little bit, that one shot, Umar said, "Oh, I need to get this to the mat now." And there was nothing that Almacan could do because that fight was hitting the mat. That it was going to happen. That takedown was perfect. There was good takedown defense on the other side, and it was just negated. So that is something that Sandhagen's got to do, is keep those hands low, be able to strike, and then also try to defend. Because he does have decent takedown defense, but offensively is where we've actually seen him improve most in the grappling. He'll mix his takedowns in with his strikes. When he gets on top, the elbows are just absolutely devastating because a guy like that has bony elbows, cut you up, like I was saying earlier. He's got good control because he has these long limbs, and he can tie you up and control you there. Ultimately, I think this is a fantastic fight. It's a very good fight. I've gone back and forth on this one a couple of times, but I think I have to rely on the ability to get the fight to the mat whenever he wants it for Nurmagomedov. I think it's going to be really tough for Sandhagen to stop those takedowns just because we've seen how solid those takedowns are, just how clean those takedowns are. And I think whenever Nurmagomedov's in trouble, he's going to be able to go back to those takedowns and then win back minutes, win back rounds, maybe even cause a lot of damage on the ground. So I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov. But this is a good fight. This is a fun fight, and I could really realistically see it going either way. But I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, who do you think wins this one? It's a great fight. If you know, I actually picked Sandhagen to be the champion at the end of the year. So I'm picking against that here because I didn't think he was going to end up actually fighting Umar after Umar pulled out of that other one for like an injury. So yeah, we ended up in a bad spot. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the comments, and I will also see you down the road.